Here.
Ms. Phillips?
Here.
Mr. Rue?
Here.
Mr. Copeland?
Here. Has proper legal notice been given of the hearing?
Notice of a public hearing for the purpose of considering the proposed vacation of 4 feet off the west side of Central Avenue between the north line of East Pleasant Street and south line of DT&I Railroad was published in the Springfield News and Sun, a newspaper of general circulation within the city. Attached here too are true and correct copies of the legal notices published on September 1 and 8, 2023.
I move that the communication be ordered received, recorded in the minutes, and filed.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? Clerk, call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Oh, wait.
Yes.
Do you want a staff report?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Good evening, everyone. The applicant wishes to vacate 4-foot strip of right-of-way as shown on slide, containing a total of 126 square feet at approximately 150 feet from the intersection of East Pleasant Street and Central Avenue. As stated within the application, the applicant plans on redesigning the vacated right-of-way space to place fence and gate for security purposes. The applicant has shown his plans with the help of a sketch. Written reports from utility companies recommend approval and had no concerns, with AT&T commenting that it will reserve any existing easement and or right-of-way rights. It is the responsibility of the owner to do locates prior to any construction and to request the removal of any facilities. Written reports from city staff state no objections and recommend approval. According to Service Center, a water line present at the vicinity of proposed vacation does not pose any concerns with the request. Based on above, staff recommends approval of applicant's request to vacate the said portion of street. The request was recommended for approval by the City Planning Board, and there were no questions or concerns from neighbors at the meeting or after the meeting. Thank you.
Any questions or comments from commission?
Were there any complaints or concerns expressed at any point in the process?
There were none.
There was not. Thank
No.
you.
Anyone else? Is there a motion to adjourn the hearing?
I think, excuse me, Mr. Mayor, we have a motion on the floor, as I recall, that the order be received, recorded in the minutes, and filed. We haven't taken action.
We didn't complete the roll call for that. So I'll do that if that's okay.
Right.
Sure.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes?
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Now we close the hearing.
Now we can vote.
No.
Now we can close the hearing.
Move. to adjourn.
Any comments from commissioners? Clerk will call the roll.
The same way sometimes.
Absolutely. I move we adjourn the hearing.
Second.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes?
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. The public hearing scheduled for 6:45 is called to order. And the clerk call the roll.
Dr. Estrop?
Here?
Mr. O'Neill?
Here.
Ms. Phillips?
Here.
Mr. Rue?
Here.
Mr. Copeland?
Here. Has proper legal notice been given of this hearing?
Notice of a public hearing for the purpose of considering the proposed vacation of the first alley north of East Lansdowne Avenue from Superior Avenue east to the first north-south intersecting alley was published in the Springfield News and Sun, a newspaper of general circulation within the city. Attached here too are true and correct copies of the notices of public hearing published on August 30 and September 6, 2023.
I move that the communication be ordered received, recorded in the minutes, and filed.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes?
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. Staff report.
The applicant wishes to vacate alley as shown on slide to combine parcels and make use of adjoining vacant lot. The adjoining vacant lot to the north of the parcel shown on by cursor is owned by the applicant. Written reports from utility companies show no concerns and recommend approval. Written reports from city staff state no objections and recommend approval. Based on above, the staff recommends approval of applicant's request to vacate the alleyway near 2130 Superior Avenue. The applicant's request was recommended for approval by the City Planning Board, and there were no questions or concerns at the meeting and after the meeting. Thank you.
Questions from the commission?
Yes. Were there any objections at any point in the process before tonight?
No objections.
There were not. Thank you.
Are any of the surrounding neighbors, this looks pretty clean. Is there any egress and regress issues from the backyards of any of the adjoining properties?
No, there are none.
Okay.
Anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Been moved and seconded, or call the roll?
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estrom?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. Should we wait to 6:50 or not?
Yes, we should.
But I thought,
Shall we?
Sure.
So we have a proclamation tonight, and I'm definitely honored to read this, and it's super exciting. And I just welcome everybody that is stopping by this evening. Thank you. Whereas Hinduism is the third largest religion in the world with 1 billion followers worldwide and over 4 million in the United States. And whereas Hinduism teaches followers to engage in a life that emphasizes good conduct, morality, and their dharma. And whereas the culture, traditions, and achievements of the Hindus who are recognized and celebrated throughout the United States during the month of October, and the American Hindus will collectively celebrate its heritage by focusing on the culture and the diversity of spiritual traditions rooted in India. And whereas the Hindu community in Springfield has been a very vibrant, giving, and positive contributor to the city of Springfield and its residents. Now, therefore, Warren R. Copeland, Mayor of the City of Springfield and President of the City Commission, do hereby proclaim October 2023 as Hindu Heritage Month in Springfield, and we urge our citizens to honor the culture, the history, traditions, and achievements of Hindu Americans in Springfield who are co-workers, neighbors, and our friends. Is Ravi here? Thank you. So,
And Ravi, if we want to step over here and we'll get photos.
all right.
Figure out what dharma is. Last year we had a question about what dharma really means. You have a couple of minutes I could talk about that?
Absolutely.
Feel free.
You gotta go to a microphone.
Go to a microphone.
Oh. This is working.
No. Up.
He can do that. Let me get whatever.
it's cool.
Perfect.
Actually, the Hindu religion is really not a religion. It is Sanatan Dharma. So what dharma really means is it's the law of the cosmos. So dharma starts with a root word called dhri. Dhri means what sustains, because of which you are who you are. So the creation or the creator who created this creation, at the basis of that, at the sustenance of that is due to dharma. Now, how does that apply to us? So, this is eternal. That's why the Hindus actually were called Sanatan Dharma. That is what it was. Sanatan means eternal. It was always there, will always be there. So, what does that mean to us, today, So, as a Hindu, we have been taught from childhood onwards, and our Vedas, which are thousands of years old, have told us that dharma means that we need to define ourselves, discover that divine within us. We are all divine. You are divine, I'm divine. We are all the same because Creator is one, right? So how do we discover that divinity? If we follow the path of dharma, which means if we do the right things. So that righteousness, ethical, moral conduct in our life will take us to that path to ultimately discover divinity within us. So that's what Sanatana Dharma is all about. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Real quick, I'm Dr. Nara Butler. I want to thank the city council and the mayor for acknowledging the contributions of the Hindu community in our neighborhood. And immensely thank you for acknowledging and proclaiming October as a Hindu Heritage Month. Thank you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. The public hearing scheduled for 6:50 is called to order. Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estra?
Here?
Mr. O'Neill?
Here.
Ms. Phillips?
Here.
Mr. Rue?
Here.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. Has proper legal notice been given of the hearing?
Notice of a public hearing for the purpose of considering the proposed vacation of the first alley west of South Claremont Avenue from Elmwood Avenue South to the first east-west intersecting alley was published in the Springfield News and Sun, a newspaper of general circulation within the city. Attached here too are true and correct copies of the notices of public hearing published on August 30th and September 6th, 2023.
I move that the communication be ordered received, recorded in the minutes, and filed.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Clerk?
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
Yes?
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. Staff report.
The applicant wishes to vacate alley as shown on slide highlighted in yellow to combine the parcels and make use of adjoining vacant lot. The adjoining vacant lot is owned by the applicant. Return reports from utility companies show no concerns, with AT&T reserving any existing easement and or right-of-way rights. It will be the responsibility of the owner to locate easements prior to any construction and to request the removal of any facilities. Ohio Edison has commented that there are existing primary overhead facilities within this alley. Easement and access rights must be secured and maintained if approved. Return reports from staff state no objections and recommend approval. Planning and zoning commented that any easement rights to be retained can be requested for removal by the applicant. As the easements require access by utility companies, the easements cannot be blocked by placing sheds, structures, fences, or concrete blocks. Based on above, the staff recommends approval of applicant's request to vacate the subject alleyway. The request was recommended for approval by City Planning Board and there were no questions or concerns at the meeting. Staff received a few calls from neighbors after the meeting who had concerns about stormwater issues in the north-south alley as shown by the cursor that may develop due to the development of the if there is any development proposed for the vacant lot. They were encouraged to attend the meeting or send email or letter if unable to attend. Thank you.
Questions from commissioners?
The curb cuts that exist up between the two alleys, are they responsible to take those out so there will be no access?
No, there has to be an easement access as said by the utility companies, so the curb cut cannot be blocked or taken off.
Have the issues with everyone been resolved, or are there still issues at this point that need to be worked on?
The only concern they had is that if the vacant lot is developed or paved, it would cause stormwater runoff in the back alley here, the north-south one. That was the only concern.
Has that issue been resolved?
No.
I know Chris Moore, our service director, did visit the site and did not see or have any additional concern from runoff from any of the other structures that are already present. And if a garage was constructed, obviously, they would look to make sure that there was adequate
Thank you for
drainage away
coming.
from the property.
And nice clothes.
Is there any plans on the part of the owner to pave the entire lot at this point?
They haven't shown any plans yet, but have a plan to place a shed or a garage in the back of the lot.
Will we maintain control over that, Mr. Heck, as it affects other neighbors?
There's certainly zoning requirements as it relates to the placement of garages, sheds, and then total coverage of the property itself. And so that'll be looked at through the building permit process from zoning.
Okay, thank you very
I have
much.
another question on the curb cut. How is this owner supposed to protect the people from, and forget utilities, they have rights all the time. How is he going to stop people from coming through there if he's not allowed to block?
He can block at the back of the alley. He has to maintain that curb cut present. So if a utility company needed to come in and get their truck back in there, that is why the apron is not required to be removed, because if a utility truck needs to get back in that space,
Right.
they would need that apron to access it.
That he is allowed to block that, what he's buying, but the utility.
Yes, if it's
still have
vacated, he can block it so people can't have
That's
just
fine.
through access.
Any other questions or comments? No. Us.
We do allow public comment during public hearings.
Okay.
I am the property owner at that spot. The big white thing that you see there, that's a motor home. What I want to do is build a garage on that other lot. And the only way I could do that is combine that lot to my lot. I own both of them anyway, but that's the only thing I want to do. I've already talked to all the neighbors. I have no plans whatsoever of blocking the alley because I got to get that motorhome out this way. I can't go that way. So I have no plans on blocking anything but that's my only reason for doing it that way. I wanted to put a garage there to put the motorhome in.
I think it's great.
Thank you very much.
Perfect.
Anyone else? Is there a motion to adjourn the hearing?
So move.
Second.
Mr. Roop?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
Yes?
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. The public hearing scheduled for 6:55 is called to order. Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estra?
Here?
Mr. O'Neill?
Here.
Ms. Phillips?
Here.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. Has properly been given of the hearing?
Notice of a public hearing for the purpose of considering a proposed amendment to the OPDH development plan for 4.355 acres located at 1315 West High Street was published in the Springfield News and Sun, a newspaper of general circulation within the city. Attached hereto is a true and correct copy of the legal notice published on August 24th, 2023.
I move that the communication be ordered received, recorded in the minutes, and filed.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Esra?
Yes,
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. Staff report.
The applicant had received rezoning approvals from the City Commission for the parcel in 2021 to develop parcel for multifamily housing project. The applicant is proposing a multifamily residential development at subject parcel, and the parcel is currently vacant. Due to the OPDH housing overlay, the applicant has to receive approvals for amending the OPDH site plan. The Clark County Comprehensive Plan shows future character area as institutional campus. Multifamily residential is a secondary use of future character area and is compatible with surrounding land uses. West High Street is classified as 66-foot wide secondary arterial public right-of-way by the Clark County Thoroughfare Plan. The plan proposal shows access from West High Street from the parcel that is split zoned G, as shown on previous slide here. And the part that's zoned City G will only have access and is not showing any dwelling units. The residential development is proposed on the parcel zone RM12 and permits for multifamily low-rise dwellings. The proposal shows structure to be 2 stories high and a total of 40 units. Return reports from city staff state no objections and recommend approval of the applicant's request to amend the OPDH plan. There is a note for the developer that after receiving approvals from the City Commission, if the applicant or property owner makes substantial changes within the approved plan, they would have to amend the approved plan district. The request was recommended for approval by the City Planning Board, and there were no questions or concerns at the meeting or after the meeting. Thank you.
Questions from commissioners?
unusual question. Were there any objections at any point in the process?
No, there were no objections.
There were not. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn the hearing?
Public comments.
I'm sorry.
My name is Mike Lowe. My address is on file. Last month, I talked to Crystal, and I asked her if that was going to come up for zoning or planning or anything. She said, no, it's not on the agenda. It would be on next month's agenda. I don't have a problem with it being built, but I do like transparency. So, people in the neighborhood has not known anything about this. So I would like to know some more information on it. And please let the community know what's going on when something like this happens, and then told no by Crystal, it's not on the agenda, it'll be next month.
Was that in August?
Yes.
This is next month. September.
Nobody's been notified.
Notification would have gone out from the city clerk's office. I will state on this one too, the original plan board date was back in March of this year. The delay before it became the city commission was the owner was working out issues with the tax map department at the county as far as the lot split was concerned. And so until those items were addressed, they could not bring it before city commission. But again, proper notice would have gone out, which goes out to, Jill, correct me if I'm wrong, but 200 feet from the property, adjacent property owners within 200 feet would have received notice of this public hearing.
Well, I talked to an individual that lives across the street. They said they were not notified, so I don't know what's going on. I just would like to know exactly what's happening. Or as how many units or whatever.
In the staff report, it was relayed that there's 40 units that will be built as part of this project.
Thank you, Mr. Mike.
And this will not be voted on tonight. They have 2 weeks to come down and voice their objections if they want to, Mike.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Clerk, call the roll.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue? Dr. Estrop?
Yes?
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes,
That's it.
I think we're ready for the meeting, right? Okay, the meeting of the city commission is called to order. Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estrop?
Here?
Mr. O'Neill?
Here.
Ms. Phillips?
Here.
Mr. Rue?
Here.
Mr. Copeland?
Here. Please rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Our God, help us to think through and make good decision this evening and listen to each other well. We need to do that in order to do our business. In your name we pray. Amen.
One nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. So moved.
Second?
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes?
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. Clerk will proceed with first readings.
Vacating 4 feet off the west side of Central Avenue between the north line of East Pleasant Street and the south line of the DT&I Railroad. Vacating the first alley north of East Lansdowne Avenue from Superior Avenue east to the first north-south intersecting alley. Vacating the first alley west of South Claremont Avenue from Elmwood Avenue south to the first east-west intersecting alley. Approving an amendment to the existing OPDH development plan for 4.355 acres at 1315 West High Street, Springfield, Ohio, in a G Green Space Park and School District, RM12 Low Density Multifamily Residence District, and OPDH Plan Development Housing Overlay District. Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Rumpke of Ohio Incorporated for the city's 2023 collection of fall bagged leaves program for an amount not to exceed $74,520. Confirming and approving the acceptance of a donation from City Electric Supply of 300 smoke detectors valued at $7 each for a total value of $2,100. Consenting to the resurfacing of State Route 68 from mile marker 4.43 to 15.04 within the city of Springfield by the Ohio Department of Transportation, identified as PID number 109773, providing for the maintenance of the right-of-way and authorizing the city manager to enter into agreements with the Director of Transportation of the state of Ohio necessary to complete the project. Confirming and approving change order number 3 to the contract between the city and Peterson Construction Company for the primary effluent pumps replacement and electrical upgrades project to increase the contract in an amount not to exceed $13,255 for a total amount not to exceed $7,709,638, and to extend the project completion date to December 31, 2023, and authorizing the city manager to execute said change order number 3. Authorizing the city manager to enter into a plat agreement, subdivision development between the city and Zuber Crossing LLC for North Bechtel Square, Section 5, and authorizing the city manager, law director, and finance director to do all things necessary to implement the said plat agreement subdivision development. Authorizing the city manager to enter into amendment number 2 to the subrecipient funding agreement with Neighborhood Housing Partnership of Greater Springfield Incorporated to increase the agreement in an amount not to exceed $100,000 for a total amount not to exceed $275,000 and extend the period of performance to March 31, 2024. Authorizing the city manager to enter into amendment number 1 to the subrecipient funding agreement with Springfield City School District for the school-based health clinic to extend the period of performance to December 31, 2023, and confirming and approving related expenditures incurred from September 1, 2023 to the passage of this ordinance. Authorizing the city manager to enter into a new construction affordable rental housing loan agreement, home funded in 2023, Rose Commons, with Rose Commons Limited Partnership to provide $800,000 in home funds to assist in the redevelopment of 1315 West High Street.
We will not be voting on these first readings, but are there any questions from Commission? Go ahead.
The increase of $100,000 to neighborhood housing partnerships, what's that for, please?
Yes, Commissioners, I'll have Shannon Meadows, the Community Development Director, answer that.
Thank you, Commission. Last year, when we received our home entitlement funds as well as our CDBG entitlement funds, we awarded $175,000 to NHB and an additional $75,000 to Habitat for Humanity to carry out what traditionally had been known as our emergency repair program. So what we're doing is we're investing those dollars in the community with partners rather than investing in staff. And NHP has allocated all of their funds to projects to date. And so staff feels that they have been very judicious in carrying out that programming. We would like to award them an additional $100,000 to invest in emergency repair.
So they underestimated what they were going to need, and this is for the same project.
Yes.
Okay.
Or they didn't underestimate, they just performed really well.
Whatever.
Just a minute. Just drop.
Item 238-23, I'd just like to say thanks to City Electric Supply for providing us funding for 300 smoke detectors. I was just curious what will happen with 300 smoke detectors.
Yeah, so we have through our normal educational programming, we will help to install those throughout the community and residential homes and helping, again, make our homes as safe as possible for our residents.
Excellent. So this is money invested directly in our community to make it a little
Yes.
very good. And then I was also wondering if perhaps you, Mr. Heck, or Mr. Moore, I mean, we're spending almost $8 million on primary effluent pumps. And I know these are very important, but Chris, I was wondering if you or Brian could give us a little more information about why this is so expensive and why this is so important.
Yeah, Chris, if you'd like to answer that.
Yes, Commissioner. So the primary is the key word in these. These are all of the sewage flows downhill and it gets to the wastewater treatment plant. And this is the first place it hits where it has to be pumped to go through the treatment process. So these pumps take a lot of wear and tear. They were past their useful life. We'd limp them along for a good while. This should be, what we're looking at is about 30 years worth of more life out of these with this project. The logistics of this get tricky because we can't turn the sewers off. It keeps flowing while we're doing the project.
Are these the big screw pumps that?
No, they are not. Thankfully, we
These
did.
are other
Yes,
pumps.
we did. We did replace one of those about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
Oddly enough, these, if you visit the plant, these aren't exciting. They're not something you really see, but they cost a heck of a lot of money.
Yes, but are obviously very critical to the welfare of the city.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other questions on first readings?
Mike Lowe, 020-23. I would like to know how much money that is and what it's for. I thought my property tax, most of that goes to the schools. So please explain to me what that's all about.
Yeah, so this was a partnership with the Springfield City Schools to assist them in establishing a school-based health clinic to help with the needs of students and families at the school. They are constructing this facility, will be at the current high school facility. And so we, again, utilized our COVID dollars to help make this available for them. For the design. We also plan to bring before you, Commission, at a later date and time, some additional dollars, CDBG dollars that can be invested into the construction of this school-based health clinic as well, as we help continue to invest in the children of our community.
How much money?
$250,000 was the design contribution.
So basically, all the community development money is going to other projects and not really into the neighborhood as they have been before.
No, the CDBG dollars are continued to be invested throughout the community in our neighborhoods, and the schools are an important component to neighborhood redevelopment. Again, investing in the future of our kids for our community, so they fall in line with our CDBG program and guidelines.
Anyone else? Clerk, proceed with second reading.
Authorizing the forgiveness of the remaining balance on an installment loan and deferred loan and release of the city's mortgage with Project Woman of Springfield and Clark County Incorporated for the redevelopment of 1316 East High Street.
Move to adopt. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
Wondering just what the remaining balance is.
Yes, Shannon, if you'd like to explain.
So remember that this loan had 50% of it deferred and the other 50% was being paid. So the remaining balance of that which was being paid is $14,000.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anyone else? Anyone in the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
Yes?
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a grant agreement with the Springfield Foundation for a grant in an amount up to $6,000 to support the Legacy 24 initiative and Legacy Club activities presented in the Springfield City Schools, and authorizing the city manager, finance director, and law director to perform all acts and execute all documents they consider necessary to fulfill the city's obligations under said grant and to comply with all relevant local, state, and federal legal requirements.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
Yes?
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the acceptance of a donation in the amount of $6,000 from the Crable Family Foundation to support the Legacy 24 initiative and Legacy Club activities presented in Springfield City Schools.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
I would just like to thank the Crable Family Foundation for this donation. As you just said, Mr. Heck, simple truth is the future of this community is our youth, and we need to be mindful of that. So thank you, Crable Family Foundation.
Else? Anyone in the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estra?
Yes?
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Implementing sections 3735.65 through 3735.70 of the Ohio Revised Code, amending the East Springfield Community Reinvestment Area of the City of Springfield, Ohio, and designating a housing officer to administer the program and declaring it an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
Mr. Heck, if you could give us a little more detail about what this is about and the importance of it to the growth of our community.
Yes, Commissioners. So we had previously approved the East Springfield Community Reinvestment Area a while back, as again we look to utilize and implement tools that are provided from the state of Ohio and the Ohio Revised Code into our community to encourage growth and development. This specific amendment to that East Springfield Community Reinvestment Area allows for single-family residential or owner-occupied units to be included as part of that incentive package or incentive program, again, to further incentivize the development and growth of our community, and specifically as it relates to housing in our community.
I would like to comment. When I came here in 2009 as superintendent, Springfield was projected to see a downward spiral of students and its population. We were considered a declining community, losing both population, young and old. And the prospects did not look very rosy for our community. And the community at the time, the commission at the time, struggled with the loss of population and the loss of revenue and had to make some pretty serious reductions in city services and budget. Since that time, one of the objectives of this commission has been to grow the city of Springfield so that our community would not only survive, but thrive. And it's now beginning to happen. We are beginning to turn the corner. People are investing and building in our community. Communities are like any other living organism. They never stay stagnant. If they don't grow, they wither and die. And I would prefer growth and what gains may come with it, as opposed to being in a position where we're dying as a community. So I will strongly support this measure. Thank you.
Else? In the audience, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Esra?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Confirming and approving change order number 3 to the contract between the city and L.J. DeWeese Company Incorporated for the Columbia Streetscape Project rebid to increase the contract in an amount not to exceed $96,131.04 for a total contract amount not to exceed $1,034,433.49 and declaring it an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
Was wondering if you might have some explanation of the change order.
Yeah, Commission, this is for the Columbia Streetscape project. This is a final change order, and there's over 50 items that resulted in an overall increase, as you saw, of $96,000. The largest of that is the original project. The entire roadway or stretch of the limits of the project were not going to be paved, and we determined that the surface course needed to be shaved down and repaved as part of the project, and that added that overall $96,000 increase.
I think that was a good addition. That's a nice place to drive. Thank you.
Anyone else? In the audience, clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Esra?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the fiscal officer to create a super blanket purchase order as authorized in resolution number 6152 and declaring it an emergency therein.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience?
Mike Lowe, I would like to know why it's an emergency and how much it's for and what it is. If you're going to be doing emergency ordinances, resolutions every 2 weeks, I think you need to tell what they're for and how much money. Please explain it to me.
Thank you for the question. This super blanket is for miscellaneous elevator repairs and parts for all city-owned buildings. This was originally a $25,000 blanket, which would not have come before commission. The increase of $12,000 makes this a super blanket because, again, a super blanket PO is anything that would normally be a blanket PO that exceeds $25,000. So just to provide some transparency and additional information for why you continue to see super blankets and other procurements on commission's agenda. Moral obligations, procurements exceeding $50,000, and super blankets require the approval of City Commission. The support for these requests for commission action are included in the agenda. That agenda is published the Friday afternoon prior to commission meetings on the city's website, which is www.springfieldohio.gov.
So the fact that these are on our agenda is an effort in transparency. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Clerk, call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Dr. Estrom,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland.
Yes.
A motion to publish tentative assessments to property owners for the 2022 Sidewalk Curb and Gutter Program, Section 1A.
So moved.
Second.
And moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the
I was wondering if we might have some information about the difference between 1A and 1B.
These are just broken up into the two sections of the paving. Most of this was related to last year's program in the lane edition where we did a lot of paving. And so it's just broken up to the two sections. And again, this allows us to publish those notice of those individuals that decided not to go ahead and pay up front and just have it assessed onto their property taxes.
Very good. Thank you.
else?
Yes, I do want to say that God loves seasonal allergies, right? But also, thank you. Also, that I will be abstaining from this vote because that is my neighborhood.
Else? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Abstain.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland,
Yes.
oh, Dr. Estrop, sorry.
Yes.
Clerk will call the roll.
Just got that one. Then we also have a motion to publish tentative assessments to property owners for the 2022 Sidewalk Curb and Gutter Program, Section 1B.
So moved.
Second.
And moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland.
Yes.
Consenting to the appointment of Dorian Hunter to the City Planning Board and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
I'm just really excited to see the younger folks in Springfield coming out to join us in the good fight. So I personally, that's my board. So I'm really excited for Dorian to join us. Dorian, that's what I was just going to say. Wave your hand. Wave your hand again in case somebody missed it.
Wave.
Wave your hand again in case anybody missed you. Oh, he coming to the mic, y'all. State your name and address for the record.
I just want to say thank you for the
what's your name?
appointment.
What's your name?
My name is Dorian Hunter, Springfield resident, been here pretty much all my life. Grateful to be a part of the city planning board. Still trying to figure out what exactly I'll be doing, but Crystal, I'll chat with you on that.
Planning for the city.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. So I got plans. So if you want to know a little bit about those, you can see me afterwards. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dorian.
Anyone else? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill,
Oh, yes.
Mr. Rue, Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland.
Yes.
And that concludes the legislative items.
Now, are there comments to come before us from commissioners?
Yes. I have several. I just want to summarize a couple of things that I was going to comment to Dr. Estrop's comments about the projects that are being done in the east end of Springfield, what we voted on earlier tonight. We received a letter from a concerned citizen, and I enjoy getting these, about what is called a TIF, tax and incentive funds. I got to tell you, if we do not embrace these, and it doesn't cost the city anything to embrace these, this is the developer that comes forth and says, I need to get funds to help build the infrastructure. And when he's talking infrastructure, he's talking streets, utilities, curb, gutter, sidewalk, things like that. And that TIF is passed off just to the houses that are being built. not to the neighborhood that's next to it or that it's going to be beside of. So again, if he didn't get a TIF and he had to reach in his pocket, which most of them can't do, there wouldn't be any development. It stopped. Developers can only do so much. Even if he could, that price would be passed on to the price of the home when they're selling it. So there's just a misunderstanding of what the TIF is all about. Because the city of Springfield could not afford to extend those utilities out there without some help from the taxpayer. And this is kind of direct taxation, if you will, and it's being part of the house itself. So that's on that one. And I didn't want to wait for 4 weeks so this lady wouldn't think that we didn't read her letter, because that's important. The next thing that I have is last 2 weeks ago, I got to tell you, the last two meetings, I have walked away from here with a wealth of knowledge. I mean, if you listen, you're going to learn something, believe me. You're going to learn something. As frustrating as it might be, but you're going to learn something. And you're going to walk away with some ideas. Well, last week, the idea, somebody was standing right over there. He says, well, why don't you just impound their cars? And I thought, well, hell, that's a good idea. That sounds pretty good. Well, what I found in my time on the commission is things that usually sound pretty good, there's a reason why it can't be done. And it usually is a trickle-down effect from the state or federal. But this one was a trickle-down from the state. We cannot, whether the person is driving without a driver's license, doesn't have insurance, and whatever, we cannot take his car away from him. The court has to do that. There's only one reason, and I'm going to let the law director tell you what that only reason is. But again, the driver's licenses are not ours. They're the state of Ohio, so we can't take it from him unless it's a DUI. Insurance, but it's against the law to drive on our streets and any place else in the state of Ohio without auto insurance and without a driver's license. But yet, we can't put that guy in jail for doing that. The judges have to do that. As much as we'd like to, and believe me, we'd love to do that. But that is what I found over the years is this thing called the Ohio Revised Code. You know, we're not near as strapped with that as the county is. They can't even sneeze without addressing the Ohio Revised Code. We're allowed to have rules of our own as long as, because we're a home rule community. But the bottom line is pretty simple. We can't exceed the power of the state. That's where some of this, I'm as frustrated as you are on some things that has happened. But by the same token, we're going to fix it. We're going to get it done. I read the article in the paper Sunday about the driving thing. You know what? That didn't answer me any questions. That just told me that it's going to be some time before we get it fixed. But we are trying to get it fixed. So at the end of the day, I'm just trying to say, I'd like the law director to refer to why, when we pull someone over for anything, taillight, going the wrong way on a one-way street, an accident, and we ask him for his driver's license and he doesn't have it or no insurance, why we cannot arrest that person.
So a lot of this has changed in 2017. The revised code for the General Assembly created some new laws for 4510.12, which is the revised code. Prior to that, the sentences were different, and there is some changes for no operator's license. So no operator's license, there's various different types of no operator's license, but if you've never had one before, it's now considered an unclassified misdemeanor. It's no longer, there's a series of M1, M2, M3, A4. It's now unclassified. So the legislature has now deemed it to be something that we do not just arrest someone for. It's not an arrestable offense.
That explains it. But make no mistake, the law is the law. You have to have a driver's license to drive in the city of Springfield and any place else in the state of Ohio, and you have to have auto insurance. And if you don't have those, when you do go to court, the judge is supposed to deal with you on that. Now, can you talk about the second offense, Jill, for a moment? if a person is caught a second time for doing something that's not the right thing to do?
Sure, Commissioner, you're talking for a second no operator's license,
That's right.
So if you are pulled over a second time and there's a record of having had a prior conviction or citation, conviction would be for a no operator's license, it becomes an M1. So the citation does mean something when you have a no operator's license because your second offense becomes a first degree misdemeanor, which increases the penalties that you could be subject to as far as up to $1,000 fine. You could be sentenced to jail time up to 180 days. So that's where it becomes the judge's discretion.
Thank you. The last thing about impounding the car. It's my understanding that if someone is stopped, okay, doesn't have an operator's license, and the car does not belong to that person, and the owner of that car is not in the car with them, we do have the right to impound that car. And the guy, but we don't have the right to arrest him. But he's just not driving that car away. Okay? So again, I'm listening every week. Don't hesitate to bring stuff up. I'm learning myself. But what seems simple and common sense, it is simple and common sense. But the state of Ohio, the federal government, they don't believe it. They're not helping us get things done the way they need to get done on this particular issue. And we're going to deal with it. Our police chief is working on it. We formed a committee to deal with the situation that we have here. And I think we just need time. And time pretty much fixes everything. So again, I can't fix what happened 6 weeks ago. But we're going to work harder now because everybody has our attention. Believe me, they do. I know they got Commissioner Rue's attention. And at the end of the day, we're going to deal with this. So thanks for giving me a couple of minutes to get that out of my system. And I can't wait to hear what we hear tonight so I can just keep our people busy here and so they can tell me we can't do it again. So let's.
I definitely wanted to add, not to that statement, but I just appreciate the diversity in the space tonight. And I do definitely, Ms. Daniels, thank you for repeatedly coming. I appreciate that. You. How many Ms. Daniels are in here? But yeah, I definitely appreciate that we're starting to see more and more diverse groups of individuals coming to City Commission on a regular basis. So as I always post on Facebook, pull up, it's City Commission, keep spreading that word.
I also wanted to respond to the letter that we received opposing the tax increment financing for development on the east side. It was from somebody, and it had to do with education. And were we taking money away from the school? That decision was made at the state level. The idea of tax increment financing is state law. And they don't need permission in every case from the local boards of education to implement tax incremental finance. The state has made it rather permissive. Up to 75% can in fact qualify for tax increment finance. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Without any motions on the Board of Education's part. So let's think a second about a giant disconnect at the state level. Thank heavens we're bringing jobs back to Ohio because we lost a whole bunch of them. And most recently, the biggest employer that the state's going to have is about 45, 50 miles from here, around Columbus and New Albany, the whole new chip manufacturing plant. The impact it will have in this state in terms of jobs is enormous. And the Department of Development and Ohio Means Jobs work very hard to bring those jobs to Ohio. And we got them. But what they haven't addressed is, how do we fund the school when we have to provide housing for all of the people who will be coming to take those jobs? After all these years, the state legislature and the governor, different parties, have not resolved the issue of funding for the public schools of this state. And so they are blown by the winds of change as a result of this. Again, the state of Ohio doesn't seem to be able to coordinate what's happening in the left hand with what's happening in the right hand. We want jobs, we want people. We need them educated. But the funding isn't there available for school. So I implore you to call on the state of Ohio to get its act together. We're not going to be able to avoid this competition over TIF if we don't engage in tax increment financing. We will wither and die, because virtually every other community in this state does it. And it can be done without a lot of permissions on the part of school districts. So I want to encourage you to write to your state representative and your state senator and even the governor. We need to fix school funding in the state of Ohio. Thank you.
Because school funding in the state of Ohio was found illegal back in the 90s, and it still continues to be so. So as an educator, that's definitely an important fact for me.
Anything else from Commissioner? I believe Mr. Rue has some cards.
Yes, folks.
Just let me say, there's a 3-minute limit on these cards. Remember that. 3 minutes. Okay.
On all speaking, so Ms. Jill will be doing the time again, and we'll have the speakers who have given us cards. Dorian Hunter, if you want to go ahead and head to this mic. Mark Sanders, if you want to go ahead and head to this mic. First one there can go ahead and begin their 3 minutes.
Good evening again, everyone.
Dorian, if you, for the record, just your name and address for everyone.
Yep,
Thank you.
Dorian Hunter, 1014 North Fountain Avenue.
Thank you, sir.
So over the past couple weeks of these meetings, it's been experienced as maybe made my blood pressure raise a little bit more than it has in the past. It kind of feels like, with some of the comments, of course, not all, that we're in a position where we need to make some crucial decisions in order to protect the future of our community for all people. Because some of the comments reminded me of, back in the day when the blacks came to town, and a lot of people were not fond to see them in their neighborhoods. You hear some similar rhetoric being circled around. And I think from my perspective as a young professional, as someone in the category of, appreciating diverse, flourishing communities, I think that we are needing to embrace this a little bit more, because obviously this is something that's happening in all growing cities across the country. And I think something that I want to learn more about is the plan for Black and brown communities across this city, Springfield, and the city's diversity, equity, and inclusion statement and purpose, and also the potential of a disparity study in the city of Springfield.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dorian.
Name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Mark Sanders, 2254 Snyder Domer Road. Preface this by saying, after the last meeting, I was called all kinds of racist. I want to emphatically state this has nothing to do with race. My position, again, living in the district where a young boy was killed because somebody was operating a vehicle illegally in this country illegally. There's no pigment attached. It's a status. It's not a color. Mr. O'Neill, I want to counter your statement Actually, they can be towed. And every area enforcement agency around us is doing just that. Urbana, Champaign County, Northampton, Tremont City, and the State Highway Patrol are towing vehicles that are operated by a non-licensed driver. And in fact, if you pull up the ORC, Section 2301-01 specifically calls out just that. And if you go down to 2107-01, line G, says any vehicle operated by a person without an operator's license or during period of suspension, cancellation, or revocation of such license. So I would encourage you
I'm not going
to.
to interrupt you, but I think that has to be through the courts, not.
No.
Yes.
That's basically being pulled over. I actually ran this through basically people
That's
that are
the
running.
direction we have from our law director.
Yeah. So again, please look at it again, because right now in Tremont City, they had a gentleman pulled over for the third time last week operating without a driver's license. The third time.
Confusing when you're talking about sentencing versus when someone's pulled over. When someone's pulled over, it sounds like that's what you're speaking of.
Yes, an immediate
So
removal of the vehicle.
There is some discretion there that different jurisdictions follow different policies, and they can be towed, or the car could be secured, and the individual would have to leave that car and not be able to drive away.
Right. So what I'm hearing from you is you can't do it. What I'm reading is you can. So again, I'll never invoke that little man's name in anything I say. But there's a family that's got to walk by that bedroom door every day knowing he walked out and never walked back in. They've got to live with this. So out of respect for them, this is above and beyond. This is something I've taken on myself. And I'm going to push this. I'm going to be here every 2 weeks pushing you. Rob, I'm going to be blowing your email up. I've talked to police chiefs, highway patrol dispatchers, as well as highway patrolmen. I've talked to people in the community that have the capability of enforcing these laws. At traffic court the other day, there were 3 people driving without licenses. All 3 had language barriers. They all 3 drove themselves there and drove themselves home after they were found guilty. There's a disconnect. We got to take the weapon away. So freedom of travel.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate
right.
your comments. We look
Method
forward to
of
hearing
travel's
from you in
not.
2 weeks. Maria Fisher, if you'd like to go to this microphone. And Carl Ruby, if you'd like to go to that microphone. Maria, I think you're going to get there first, so you can begin. Name and address to the record, please.
Maria Fisher, I live on Gate Road.
Pull the thing down so we could hear you better. Thank you.
Is that good?
Good.
At the meeting on August 29th, when asked about the immigrant situation, one response was, it has been 1 week since the accident. I can personally make a lot of phone calls in 1 week's time. Also, when voicing concerns about immigrants' unsafe driving, the response was to deflect onto our citizens and talk about what we do wrong. The overall tone and responses that evening from a few, especially towards myself, were disrespectful, degrading, condescending, and bottom line, unacceptable. Reform needs to begin in Springfield. While you may not be able to impose reform, you should already be leaning on our senators and congressmen about what is happening here and try to initiate change instead of blaming it on the next level of government and putting responsibility back onto us. It is infuriating and confusing how the conversations a month ago centered around making sure our citizens were safe, but have now transitioned to making sure undocumented, unvetted immigrants are comfortable. Those of us who have contributed to the growth and success of this town are outraged, and for good reason. We are upset that things we have worked hard for are not only being taken for granted, but destroyed and lost in this utter lawlessness. I have personally and professionally been involved in and contributed to countless private and public causes in our community. Our company raised the money for the first ever K-9 unit in Springfield, and we did it because we were proud of our city and wanted to help keep it safe. Yet now our government is making excuses for men being naked in public restrooms. If any adult in here were to strip down in a Walmart bathroom, you would be arrested for indecent exposure and possibly labeled as a pedophile. We are giving immigrants a free pass because there are too many people in a household and women are taking up the bathrooms. Do you think there are American households with more than one family and bathroom spaces at a premium? Do you see any other race or ethnicity stripping down in our public restrooms? This is explicit and dangerous behavior, but we are being told nothing can be done. I don't care what the color of your skin is. If you are here illegally making our city unsafe, it is a problem. After the last meeting, a news reporter said he reached out to the Haitians for comment, but they declined because they felt targeted. I find this interesting since this is our home and we are the ones that feel targeted. We also feel there is no respect for our city and that a little humility and humbleness among the Haitians would go a long way. So how are they getting here? If it is revealed that these temp agencies are bringing in illegals, they need to be held accountable, and all money made doing this needs to be forcibly donated to programs for homeless veterans and hungry children in our community. In Springfield City Schools alone, over 70% of our children only eat when school is in session. Yet our leaders before us have been quoted saying they want to be sure the immigrants are taken care of. I have witnessed brazen behavior by Haitians and a complete lack of respect and concern
Sir,
for our
would you not
citizens.
interrupt, please?
But they expect concern and compassion from us. I am not.
If you do, we'll have you removed. Okay.
That'd be Allison.
I am not racist. I am defending our city. When liberals speak, it's considered freedom of speech, but when conservatives do, it's racism. Letting in undocumented, unvetted immigrants is clearly dangerous. I understand wanting to achieve the American dream, but allowing illegals in at the expense of American safety is one of the most un-American things any level of government can do. Our commissioners are concerned with making sure Haitians are safe, but that safety comes at a cost to the very citizens who elected them. Our city is in desperate need of immediate and decisive leadership. While I cannot run for office because I was unaware of the cutoff for submission,
Ms. Maria, thank you for your comments. Your time is up. We look forward to hearing you again. Thank you.
I'd like to start by saying that I value the opinions of those who disagree with me on the issue of immigration and would be happy to buy a beer or a cup of coffee to anyone who wants to sit down in a spirit of friendship to talk about our differences. Tonight, I want to focus on the economic and demographic case to be made for welcoming immigrants to our city and county. I brought copies of 2 documents to present to our city leaders, both published by the state of Ohio. One is called the State of Ohio Population Projection Report 2023. The other is a map showing population projections for each county in Ohio between 2020 and 2050. According to both documents, Ohio needs to brace for a significant decrease in population. There are 88 counties in Ohio and only 14 are projected to grow between now and 2050. I did a quick study this morning and found that every county that is projected to grow is doing so in part by welcoming a higher percentage of immigrants. While some counties are expected to grow by as much as 50%, Clark County is expected to shrink by 16.8%. Between now and 2050, that is a projected loss of 21,681 people. Based on the average household size in Ohio, that is a projected loss of 8,996 households, nearly 9,000 additional empty housing units in our county. Based on a very conservative estimate of per capita spending, this is a loss of $650 million in annual spending in our county by 2050. The loss in retail sales alone is almost $228 million annually. I cannot imagine the toll that this will take on housing values, business sales, or tax revenues in our community. I believe that a higher percentage of immigrant laborers in Clark County will help to attract manufacturing jobs to our community that will provide more employment opportunities for all of our residents. I encourage you as city leaders to seek feedback from Clark County's largest employers. But my primary concern is not the health or size of our business community. I'm a pastor. I'm primarily concerned about our county's churches and its faith community. I believe that we need more, not fewer, people who love God and follow His command to love our neighbors. I'm thrilled that there are at least 4 new Haitian churches in town. It is the fastest growing segment of the faith community in Clark County. Based on national averages as it relates to church attendance, if we do not become one of the most welcoming communities in Ohio, and if we allow these population decreases to come to pass, there will be nearly 7,000 fewer worshipers in Clark County in 2050. In addition to more empty homes, shuttered businesses, and lower city and county tax revenues, there will be 40 to 50 fewer churches to care for the poor and marginalized. I beg you not to let this happen.
Thank you, Carl. If we could have Deborah Simon go to a microphone and Diane Means go to another microphone. Deborah Simon and Diane Means. When you get to the microphone, if you can say your name and address for the record, please.
Go ahead, Ms. Means.
Diane Means, 1801 Center Boulevard. And I'm not here to talk about immigrants tonight. I've been a resident of this community all my life. I live on the south side of Springfield by choice. I'm here to express my concerns about a property at 1821 Center Boulevard. I would encourage every one of you commissioners to make a point to drive by this house. As you're riding by this house, I would love for you to ask yourself a question. How did this happen? Don't we have trash, junk, and nuisance ordinances in place to protect our cities from this? This house is in deplorable condition and probably should be condemned. They have broken out all the windows. I'm sure there's no gas, there's no lights, there's no water, and definitely no trash collection. They have brought chairs and items from inside the house and are sitting on the outside in the front porch. They've started to remove the siding from the house. Not sure if they're scrapping it or what they're doing. Junk and trash is visible on the porch and in the driveway. There's dogs running unleashed in the yard. The grass hasn't been cut, and they even have the nerve to be growing pumpkins in the front yard. I can't make this up. As residents of Springfield, and more specifically, the southwest corner of the city, we deserve so much better. I'm sure if this type of condition existed in any of your neighborhoods, it would have been addressed a long time ago. Even though I don't live on the north side of town, and that's my choice, I live on south side because that's where I choose to live. I take pride in my house and in my properties. I have more than one property in this city. We say the zip codes don't matter, but I'm asking you to put your money where your mouth is. Instead of spending millions of dollars on motels and buying them and tearing them down, can we not reinvest in our community? Spending maybe a little bit more money on code enforcement and having someone go around our neighborhoods checking to see that these conditions exist. It shouldn't have to be me raising my hand that there's a problem. This problem should have already been noticed. So why am I speaking out now? This has been going on and off for quite some time. They trash the house, I report it, the city comes out, they haul things away, and then it's back worse than it ever was before. This has an impact on my neighborhood and on my property value. For the record, your current code enforcement officer, specifically Mr. Miller, he's been very empathetic and very cooperative with me whenever I have contacted him. But in my mind, this is so much bigger than one code enforcement officer. This is a city problem. So let me close by saying, again, I encourage you, drive by this house, 1821 Center Boulevard, and so you can see and experience what I see each and every day as I come out of my house. I would love to be, I want to be wrong. I'm hoping that
Ms. Means, thank you so much for your comments, and in no way do I mean disrespect. Thank you.
I'll just state real quick, ma'am, Bobby Bruno, our staff member, he'll connect with you after the meeting to get some additional information.
Thank you. Ma'am, Deborah, name and address for the record, please.
My name is Deborah Simon. I live at 2693 Earhart Drive. And first off, I want to say that since the last meeting, I stepped up to do something. I signed up with my church to volunteer 6 to 8 hours a week to help the Haitians that are here for amnesty assimilate into our community, and I hope others here will consider doing the same. I'm kind of disappointed. I hear Rob Rue that he's actually has done some things. He didn't have a lot to report tonight, but we're still not getting any of the stats that we asked for. We need facts. We need the truth. I'm also impressed with Crystal Phillips because I feel like she's here. She has a good heart with good intentions. But overall, either you don't understand the magnitude of the crisis that you've allowed to happen, or you don't care about the human trafficking that's going on right under your noses. If you cared, you would have already looked into this a year or two ago, studied it, and you would be able to easily answer all of the questions that we have asked. People are being harmed. The very infrastructures of our community are as well, and our residents, and the asylum seekers as well. Yet you don't have any idea of how many there are here, or what kind of help that they need, let alone how many are here illegally. It's like you don't know how to swim, and all these people are drowning around you, and you're just standing there watching what's going on, saying that we're going to get the information sometime. We need boots on the ground right now, instead of butts and seats. You've been the ones that are responsible. You are the ones that have allowed for all of this to happen. and you have failed us. Which ones of you are up for this challenge? Who's brave enough to be a leader that you were elected to be? And I want to look you all in the eye, and I want to ask you, how many of you feel like this is a calling from God for this position right now, for this situation and this moment of time? Or are you up here for your ego or for your desire for power? I want you all to look in your hearts and see if God is calling you for this time, because this is going to be a long, hard haul for all of us, and I'm willing to help. For anyone not feeling a strong calling from God right now, I ask them to step aside and allow somebody who is having a calling from God to take your place to help save Springfield. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much. Thank you for also bringing up, I decided not to have a list of things what I've done since the last meeting, but I did ask Brian Heck to go ahead and make a report on the 2 times he's met with the committee that we did establish. You're welcome to go to have a seat, but he's going to go ahead and report on the committee meetings.
Yes, commissioners. So as Rob requested at the last meeting, he asked me to put together the Immigration Accountability Response Team. In fact, this team at first is internal based on the investigatory nature of some of the exact items that were talked about, looking at the trafficking issues and so forth that may be occurring in our community. And so we've met twice now since the last meeting and looking at a variety of things as it relates to employment, concerns and issues, housing, the driver's education, driver's license items. We had a great meeting too with the Department of Public Safety and the Bureau of Motor Vehicles to help us have a better understanding of those rules and the licenses as it relates to immigrants into our country and how they can drive and when they need to get a state issued driver's license. And then we're also continuing to look at ways to partner with other groups and agencies to help us collect that information and work towards developing solutions as requested at the request of the city commission.
So do we have any answers at this point?
So, yeah, I mean, we're working on several things, but first off, I'll address the driver's education and the driver's licensing. What we learned, so the state of Ohio does make it extremely easy as it relates to get a driver's license once you reach the age of 18. As far as anyone entering the country that has a current foreign driver's license, they can drive on that license legally for 1 year in the country or until they establish residency. And residency could, in the state of Ohio, could mean signing a lease document or buying a house, enrolling a child in school. It could entail when you get a job. Those things establish residency. And then, so anyone at that point in time would have 30 days to receive an Ohio driver's license. And so that is one thing that I learned myself on how that process worked. As far as it relates, once you turn 18, there are no formal driver's education programs required. You have to take a examination that is computerized. The state of Ohio, I learned, offers it in 7 different languages, and you are allowed to take that test itself with an interpreter. Once you've passed that computerized exam, you then have to take a skills assessment, which includes, if most of us know, the maneuverability and I remember it when I took it, just basically driving around the block, turn signals, turns, so forth, up at Bechtel, which is where I took mine. And if you pass that on the first time, then you have your driver's license. If you do not pass that first time, then you are required to take either a 4-hour online course or in person for 4 hours as well, and get additional driving time with an instructor. I did fail to mention, when you take the skills part of the test, you have to take it alone with the instructor. You're not allowed to have an interpreter or so forth. So you would have to have an understanding of the basic street signs and lettering, English language, to be able to pass that test, to understand the signs and so forth. And so we learned that. through meeting with the Ohio BMV and the Department of Public Safety. The other interesting part is that in the state of Ohio, you do not have to have a driver's license to purchase a vehicle. That is something we asked, how do we change that? The state looked at us and said, good luck, because the dealership lobby, the car dealers, are not interested in changing that because they want to sell cars. And so we would need state law to change that says you have to have an actual driver's license to be sold a vehicle. So that meeting was very informative and very helpful. One of the pieces that came from that, again, is the emphasis on driver's education. And there is not a lot of translation of the driver education materials, road signs, so forth, that's provided by the Ohio BMV. And they are looking to translate those into languages that would be beneficial, not only here in Springfield, but across the state of Ohio. And so they continue to work through that. And they are continuing to meet with the Haitian task force that does meet, which is comprised of about 70 different organizations and entities of the community, led by the Health Department and United Way, and are working to work with the state on what that education and training could look like for those immigrant citizens in our community. And the other piece of it, again, that was mentioned here was about looking at the employment. That is a big concern. Are things happening in terms of trafficking, job trafficking, that falls under the same category as human trafficking? And again, that is something that we are going to investigate and look into to the fullest extent in our community.
You know, when you find out something like you can drive on an international license for a year, to me, that just opens up a whole level of possible fraud. Somebody who's desperate to be in our country, legally, let's just say, an immigrant comes in legally, but does not understand the language at all. And they're told they can get a permit, hold it up, and drive on it. And the problem is there's so many people sharing information, and it's not accurate. It's a 30-day permit. Or they're told they just take this license, buy this license, and you'll be fine. So desperate, no excuse for criminal behavior, no excuse for anything avoiding law. But there's so many people, I believe, that are giving information because maybe they want to get them to the job site. Maybe they want to get the workers to another place. It's just the amount of information that's going into the immigrant community is a mass amount of confusion as well, which is causing harm, not just in residents of Springfield, but also in the immigrant community, for sure. And being taken advantage of, whether that's some sort of agency or some sort of landlord or a criminal activity. A lot of people they're targeted. Immigrants are targeted because of the ability not to be able to safely house cash. So these are things we're finding out. There's a lot more on the investigative side that we're pressing in to look at because we do want to get to the bottom of who's lying to the immigrant population that's coming into town, and we need to put a stop to that.
I was going to add real quick, just to say on the housing side of it as well, I know one of the things came up about being able to report if we know of housing that has more people than exploited rent and should not have that many individuals living in under one roof. We have the report of concern feature. We also, I know Jill Pierce, our clerk, has received a couple calls since last meeting for us to be able to investigate and track that. We're also working on a separate kind of report of concern feature that's specifically to that item that will be housed on our website so that we can investigate all of those matters and complaints.
Thank you, Brian. Mayor Copeland, I'm sorry, Kevin.
go ahead.
I just wanted to share out two stories that I have, people have come up and shared with me. I do know an individual that since this has begun, she has gone out and she has gotten her she just took a class specifically to teach drivers special education for, not special, sorry, I'm still at work, driver's education. And so specifically for our Haitian brothers and sisters, for less of word. Okay, so she's done that. I also had a report from a thrift shop, and you come in, you purchase things, and then they donate out on West Main Street. that they donate a certain amount of money every year from the profits that they're getting from the thrift store. And they're typically able to donate about $18,000 to $20,000 every year. Well, because of the Haitian community coming in and shopping at that store, this year they were able to donate $59,000. So I just wanted to add those things in, that it continue to encourage us to move in love and respect and with one another, because truly are the same. We come from the same thing. We want the same things. And I think that it's very important to value each individual as a person, okay? And not just lump them all together. So I definitely appreciate the conversations. I had a conversation with the Marians after the last meeting. I feel like we were able to build a relationship there. And so I just wanted to say that those are the type of conversations that we need to be having so that we can understand one another. And first, we should seek to understand prior to being understood, okay? So I want to thank the Marians again and everybody that continues to show up for our meetings. And definitely, thank you.
Mr. O'Neill?
I have a question on the driver's thing that you gave. So they can answer their test online, but they don't get their permit until they take a physical driver's test with an instructor. Is that, not an instructor, but someone from the state. Is that correct? They don't get a license.
Yes, so they would take that online test at the facility.
They can't. Oh, let's go back.
It's on a computer at the facility.
So they got to go there.
Yes, and then they can take that with an interpreter, and it's translated in multiple languages. Once they pass that, then they also have to pass a skills assessment, which that skills assessment, driving, maneuverability, so the cones, and driving around essentially the block with a state employee.
Okay. So that puts to rest that they're not getting online and passing their test and getting a driver's license sent to them.
That is correct.
That's good.
I want to make sure I'm clear, because I had the same question.
Right.
So the online test has to be taken at the driver's, the BMV facility, not at home where I could get somebody to assist me. I still got enough old teacher left of me. I understand the whole concept of group learning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's just one thing we don't have to.
I just want to clarify, online is not the correct term. It's a computerized test, so it's on a computer. Now, maybe I don't know how the BMV does that in terms, it might be on their portal, but it's taken at the facility.
It's something that was set up during COVID, I believe, the online mechanism.
Thank you.
There's no doubt that they need to relook at their policy, but anyway, that came out. Okay. So we have additional speakers. So Peg Foley, if you'd like to go to this microphone, and Sherry Booth, if you'd like to go to this. Sherry Booth? You sure can.
Thank you, members of the City Commission.
If you don't mind your name and address to the record,
Oh, I'm
please.
sorry.
Thank you.
My name is Peg Foley, and I live at 2121 Olympic Street here in Springfield. Thank you, members of the City Commission, for your public service and for providing a forum for us to express our concerns. At the last meeting, it seemed that many people in the audience held the view that most of the Haitian people in our community are here illegally. To the contrary, I believe that most of our Haitian neighbors have a lawful presence here. People of Haiti have been emigrating to the U.S. for decades. Many have lawful status by becoming permanent residents and getting a green card. Many have entered the U.S. and applied for asylum and are permitted by law to stay until their case is decided. And many are here under temporary protected status, known as TPS. The U.S. government initially designated Haiti for TPS in 2010 and has extended it multiple times, most recently in January this year. People who apply for and receive TPS are permitted by law to stay in the United States, and they are able to obtain authorization to work. So, what do we do when thousands of people arrive here in our community seeking a better life, just like my grandparents and great-grandparents did in the 1800s, arriving from Ireland and from Germany. Last week, I heard a comment on the radio that made me think about our neighbors. And the comment was, kindness begins with the understanding that we all struggle. Kindness begins with the understanding that we all struggle. And we do struggle. For years, we have had neighbors in Springfield who struggle for safe neighborhoods, decent housing, nutritious food, and adequate health care. Now we have new neighbors from Haiti who struggle for these same things, in addition to a new language, new customs, and new laws. I want to help our old and our new neighbors, and I look to our city commission to take the lead and to lead us in this effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Peg. Your name and address for the record, ma'am?
My name is Sherry Booth, and I live at 150 South Light Street.
Thank you.
I have lived at this address for 26 years. In 2007, my significant other of 14 years had a widowmaker. For those that don't know, that was a massive heart attack. Since 2007, I have been fighting the city to keep my house. I understand because he had a son, legally everything went to the son. But I hired a lawyer, and we found the son. I sent this son letters. I sent him certified mail. I even put him in the paper. Not once has he come to any of these hearings. But you guys can't give me my house. But in return, you're going to sell me my house that's already paid for? And you want me to pay $43,000 to buy my house back, to live in my house? I have a problem with that. Now, if I can't find him, how are you going to find him? Who gets that $43,000?
Ma'am, I'm not sure of your specific case. I would ask that I'll have Bobby Bruno and my staff get with you. I need to understand, I don't know if it's through the probate court or what. I don't know of that specific situation. I'm glad to look into it and help you to understand it. But if you could give that information to Bobby Bruno so that I can look into it, I will do so.
And also, I would like to say this. For the last 2-3 meetings, I have been on Facebook. I want to know, where was the concern, that the outrage? I'm sure that man did not wake up that morning and said, let me go kill a boy. I'm sure he didn't. But I want to know, where was the outrage when those 4 little girls got hit on Yellow Spring Street? Wasn't no outrage like this then. When that little boy got hit on Yellow Spring Street in his yard, a little king boy, he's in his own yard. Where was the outrage for that then? When Prosecutor Barry hit that man on Yellow Spring Street and killed him, where was the outrage then? There wasn't no outrage, but because we got these so-called immigrants coming to our town, now you got this outrage. But here's what I want to say about that. The difference between me and the Haitians is where that boat stopped.
Hello.
My great-great-grandfather was Addison White, a runaway slave. He has an exhibit in the Gammon House now. The only difference between me and those Haitians is where that boat stopped. And how can you consider yourself a Christian if you talk about people like garbage, like they're just nothing? You can't be a Christian. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Darla Bunker. Darla? Are you here, Darla? Okay. Linda Bailey? And Marianne Schmidt. Marianne, if you'd like to. Linda, you can go. You're welcome to go to the
Hi,
mic.
my name is Darla Bunker. I live at 2507 Hilldale Road. I don't know why everybody gets this racial thing. I'm not here for racial. I am here because just when Brian Heck was talking about getting licensed, it's insanity. If you cannot understand the language, you should not be on our roads. I have a petition. I need 1,000 signatures, and if that's racist, so be it. I really don't care if you're a Haitian, you're Chinese. I don't care. You can be living in Springfield, Ohio, be born and raised here, but if you don't understand the language, why are you driving? Our signs are in English. Crystal Phillips, when I asked you last week to sign it, your response was they need an interpreter. Fine. Is that interpreter going to be in the car with them when they drive?
No, that was already stated.
And then
But
you
I also,
said a
in regards,
GPS. A GPS isn't going to tell anybody when to stop for a school bus or any bus. This is insanity. If you allow anybody, and I don't care where you come from, if you don't understand the language, you don't need to be on our roads. If I teach my grandson times tables, the 2 timetables, and I get him to memorize that, it's not going to help him when he has a test over all of them. You have to understand the language. You have to. That's what I'm upset about. And I am outraged at any child that gets hit or killed. I don't care who they are. If you hurt a child or anybody, there should be consequences. But if you're going to drive on our roads, you need to understand the language. And if that comes from the state, I've already called DeWine. I'm pressing DeWine, but I'm also asking everybody in this room to be outraged. You can call anybody racist all day long. But when it comes down to the fact that you don't understand the language, you don't need to be driving. Thank you.
One of the things that came up in one of the meetings is the fact that our country uses words on signs for directions. Other countries use symbols. I think that was in one of the meetings that they brought
Would you
up.
go to Italy and drive?
yeah.
So
You don't have no problem driving in Italy?
I was just stating it came up. It was interesting that here we're the only ones that actually use words. So it is difficult. I mean, I hear what you're saying. It's one of the things that came
Would you
up.
feel comfortable enough to drive in Italy?
Yes.
Even though you don't know their customs and their language? That's BS.
Thank you. Name and address for the record, please.
Glenda Bailey, 732 Mound Street. First, I want to say I sang in an all-black band for many years, and we played at all-black clubs more often than not. So I don't appreciate the language that was used about me, I'm assuming. And I would like to give our educators a little lesson in the English language. They is used to refer to people in general. It's a generic or unspecified person, a specific or known person previously mentioned, about to be mentioned, or present in the immediate context. Them is the plural of they. Those is the plural of that. It is used in referring to people or things previously mentioned. These is the plural of this. These people is correct. Using these people in referring to those close at hand, or using those people for those far away in context is proper English. Bruce Kelly accused us, I'm assuming, of using racial tropes. A trope is a metaphor or an analogy. I say what I mean, and I don't need to use metaphors to describe Haitians and others who I watched storm the border, waiting on their first chance to run across. And I'm not afraid to call them invaders, intruders, line jumpers, or illegal aliens. There is no doubt that Springfield is a sanctuary city. It's a de facto sanctuary city because actions speak louder than words. If 10 or 20,000 low-skilled, illiterate Ukrainians stormed the border, I guarantee the racists in this town would not be welcoming them. In fairness to Americans, invading Haitians should be sent to fight America's de facto war in Ukraine. Rob, why did it take the death of a child and the outrage of a community before you did anything? How many Haitians have you taken into your home? Put your money where your mouth is and provide some Haitian men a couple of rooms in your house. Let them use your car. Hire them at your business. And again, the people with Aiden Clark's blood on your hands know who you are, and I'm calling out Carl Ruby and Casey Rollins specifically. Now, the city commission could pass an ordinance banning bathing in public bathrooms. Why haven't you acted on it? That would be so simple for you to do.
Thank you
The
for your
public
comments.
expects the sinks we use
Marianne Schmidt, if you'd
to
like to
be
go to this
sanitary
mic, your time
and
is
not
up. Thank you.
contaminated.
Marianne Schmidt and Corey Morgie. Corgie Maury, sorry, buddy. Corgie,
Marianne Schmidt,
thank you.
Northbird Road. I second what you're saying. I don't care if you're Chinese or Venezuelan or Iraqi. I don't care what you are. When you come here legally, like my grandparents did, you become an American. So I have two things to tell you. First, the mass migrations of illegal aliens is a well-planned effort started over 10 years ago with the last Democrat president. This plan was created by two Columbian University professors named Cloward and Piven to overwhelm the welfare system and bring a complete destruction of our moral and financial society. I also encourage you to read Rules for Radicals by Saul Alinsky. The second item is I recommend to the Commission to read Title 8 U.S. Code 1324 and the Immigration and Naturalization Act. Here is an excerpt. Notice for and on the record. Under Title 8, any U.S. citizen that knowingly assists an illegal alien, provides them with employment, food, water, or shelter, has committed a felony. City, county, or state officials that declare their jurisdictions to be open cities, counties, or states are subject to arrest, as are law enforcement agencies who chose not to enforce this law. Police officers who ignore officials who violate Section 8, Title 8, are committing a Section 274 federal felony. Furthermore, according to Federal Immigration and National Act of 1952, if you live in a city, county, or state that refuses to enforce the law for whatever reason, the officials making those rules are financially liable for any crime committed within their jurisdiction by an illegal alien. I've given this to the county sheriff, and I have read that at the county commission meeting.
Thank you.
You all have a good night.
Just to be clear, I think most of the Haitians are not illegal. The United States has invited them to come here to escape from a terrible situation in their own country. So,
Please, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
I was just correcting what was said.
Yep.
I don't think they're illegal.
Ma'am, please. Please.
Lori's the name. I live in Ridgewood, just off of North Fountain Boulevard.
Order. Could we please? Ma'am, everybody gets time to speak, and you've had yours. Thank you so much.
Lori's the name. I live just off of North
If you speak up to the microphone, please, Corgie. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I know my time is limited, so I'll try and speak fast and to the point. A point of personal privilege. As a 20-year resident of this city, I wish to take this opportunity to thank the Springfield community for welcoming me here so many years ago when I came looking for a better life. I came as a stranger, and you accepted me as part of your family. And because of the kindness and hospitality you, Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners, extended to this foreigner, I have made it my personal mission to ensure that the strangers, foreigners, immigrants, refugees, and any other wayward souls that should enter into our land are welcomed and treated with that same loving kindness that was afforded to me so long ago. You know, when I hear all the stories in the news about this immigration problem in America, I am truly thankful that I was not viewed as a problem when I came here. In Springfield, We have had a massive influx of immigrants looking for a better life. And as they sought to build their community just to the south of us here, they faced limited opportunity because they were seen as dirty, bringing disease and crime with them, and speaking in a crude foreign tongue. So the only job opportunities available to them were the dirtiest, menial jobs that no one wanted. And that's why they became firefighters and police officers. First ones in the city, in fact. They formed a community just off of Selma Road and called it Irish Hill. They started building churches and schools. They got involved in the local government. And today, we reflect on Springfield's rich Irish heritage when we see St. Joseph's Catholic Church, the crown jewel of Irish Hill. And when we want our children to attend the best schools, parents have the choice to have their children become a fighting Irish at Catholic Central. We frequent their businesses. We even have Irish representation right here on our city commission. Yes, we hear a lot about the immigration problem. You know who spoke prolifically on the topic of immigration? Jesus.
Hello.
In fact, at the time of Jesus' birth, Joseph and Mother Mary themselves were running from the Roman authorities in a land ordained by God just for them, and yet simultaneously they remained refugees in a land that they could not call their own. Yes, Jesus spoke prolifically on the problem of immigration. It was Jesus dropping truth on the masses when he delivered parable upon parable of moral truths that centered on our treatment of the stranger, the refugee, and the immigrant. Arguably, the greatest and most beloved of these is found in the Gospel of Luke, the 10th chapter. Hear the word of God. One day, an expert in religious law stood up to test Jesus by asking him this question, "Teacher, what must I do to receive eternal life?" And Jesus replied, "What does the law of Moses say? How do you read it?" The man answered, "You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your strength, and all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself." "Right," Jesus told him. "Do this, and you will live."
Gorgie, thank you for your words. We appreciate it. You're welcome to come back.
Mr. Mayor, can I say one more thing, 10 seconds?
Come here, please. And then Tissa Brady, come here, please. Did I say that right? Tissa. Tissa. You want to come to this microphone? Thank you. Heidi?
Hi, I'm Heidi Earlywine. I'm at 1255 South Fountain by choice. I love this town. Thank you, commissioners, for letting us speak today. I value Springfield, Ohio. I think it's fantastic. It has a little bit of everything, the benefits of and the challenges of America. I think it's fantastic. I've been teaching English to my Haitian friends here in town for over 2 years. I can give you character references on the people I've met and say that they are careful, hardworking, professional, caring, strong people, both in body and in heart. I'm a history and human geography teacher who studies how people move around the earth. And it's important to see that this city understands a little bit about the history of Haiti. So, as we know, we all have to focus on those basic needs. We've talked about them tonight. We've got our food, water, shelter, safety. Everybody's trying to meet their needs somehow. And for those of us who already have those needs met, we don't really think about them. We get to go be creative. We get to travel. We get to do art. I get to take pottery classes in Yellow Springs. It's fun. But for those of us who are still struggling with our food, water, shelter, and safety needs, it is a constant struggle that does not leave your mind. All you think about is getting those basic needs met. And for our friends who have left Haiti and who left the island, they hate having had to leave the island. No one's saying, "Oh, yay, I had to leave Haiti." They love their homeland. They would love to stay there. But for the violence that has completely ripped the country apart, due to all of the systemic problems that we've had going back, unfortunately, the island originally was inhabited by indigenous people that eventually died because of enslavement. The Europeans, of course, wanted more people to work there, so they went down and stole people from Africa, put them there. And so 400 years later, we're still fighting with this situation. And in 1805, I think, for Toussaint Louverture and a whole bunch of other brave Haitians kicked off the French and became the first and only French,
again,
the first and only black-owned country in the entire
Heidi, just
Western
a minute. Your
Hemisphere.
time's not being taken away. Ma'am, any more outbursts, we're going to ask you to leave.
I teach high schoolers and sure
I
I can
understand, just
handle it.
please,
Okay.
go ahead.
The proud Haitians rose up, kicked everybody off, and tried to develop their own country, grew their own agriculture, tried to sell it to people with money. Nobody bought it. And that from 1805 forward has created 200 years of massive problems for the people, and they have not been able to establish consistent government. They just had their president assassinated a couple years ago. This has just dissolved into complete violence. So when they think about their food, water, shelter, and safety, what happens is something human geographers call spontaneous migration, where you tell your friend, I'm done. I'm out of here. I'm going to go find food, water, shelter, safety, and I'm going to make it happen for my family. Then you go do that, and you're really not sure. The next step, you're blind to. Every single time you take a step, you're not sure what's going to happen next.
Thank you for your time
Okay.
and education.
And they are doing it here in our
Appreciate
town.
Thank
Welcome,
you.
patients.
Good evening, Tisa Brady, 1700 Clifton Avenue. I didn't come with plans to speak. I came with plans to listen, because in all thy getting, you getting understanding. It's evident that the complaints have been unnecessarily redundant. It's evident that there's people in the room who are not cognizant of the wealth of knowledge and the plethora of capacities that individuals on this board operate in. Needless to say, the breakdown of pronouns and grammar are unnecessary. I don't feel as if people who come up and speak against it have the mental girth to operate in the capacities that the one who is being slandered operates in effortlessly and selflessly within the community, in addition to the fact recruiting others. I'm talking to you, ma'am. Thank you for facing this way. In addition, let's not talk about complaining anymore, Springfield. It's old, it's done, it's over with. We're aware of the need. Any conversation from henceforth needs to be solution-based. I'm one of those individuals who don't mind riding with the Haitians. I have Google Translate on my phone. That breaks down the language barrier there, along with the simple smile followed by sac passe, which means how are you? That one relatable thing. It's called the gift of tongues. Everybody has it. We're here to relate one to another, to edify one another, to support one another, regardless of whether you're black, yellow, brown, Puerto Rican, or Haitian. My hope for you, ma'am, is that you find a little love in your heart, first for yourself, then you'll be able to be a profound impact on the community. Also, you can't run to the United States from Haiti, baby. You either have to catch a boat or a flight.
David Moore? David Moore? Ma'am, that's it. Please stop. Allison, thank you. Ma'am, no more. David Moore? Name and address to the record, please.
David Moore, 778 West Grand Avenue. I'm here to talk about, in 2015, I was down here talking to the mayor about
He's another one.
other things. But yeah, I worked in a Studebaker's nursery 33 years. And going to work, I couldn't even go to work. I had to talk to Chief Moody and Miss Tilk about going to work. I was getting brake check. I heard a lady say something about brake check. Almost ran off the road. You know, and then we're here talking about the Haitians. We're talking about the Haitians. Who goes down here to come to school? It's a whole bunch of white people. They're the ones that was trying to run me off the road, giving me the finger, all of that. And then it's all kind of stuff. My dad was the featherweight champion of the world. I came down and talked to Mr. Hatt. Who's using my dad's name? Who's using Johnny Lido's name down here? It wasn't nobody, no brothers. They were just using my dad's name. My mom's still alive. Johnny Lido was still alive. But this goes on. And to the people here, They want to talk all this racist stuff, especially you. Where the other lady go? All this.
Just make your comments, guys, sir. Thank you.
All of this petitions and all that. God made, like I'm with that guy. God made this country not for no white people, not for no black people. He made it for everybody. And that's how it's going to be. And it should be. Thank you for your time.
That concludes our meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.